Hello, hello, JJ DiGeronimo here. I am so honored to be with you and thank you for joining me again here at Together We Seek podcast. As you know, I am always searching for new ways to do the inner work, the work that really shifts us in ways that we can see our shifts outside of us. I believe everything happens inside and the outside is a reflection of what is happening on the inside. And through that work, I've talked about it many times. There's many practitioners I've worked with, many books, but I have to say this is a treat. This book for me validates how far I've come from where I've been. And Lisa is with me today, and her book about Chiron, the Chiron effect, healing our core wounds through astrology, empathy, and self-forgiveness, is one of those books that'll make you stop, hit record, go back in, listen again. And Lisa, I am so excited to talk about this work specifically for the listeners and like how they can use this tool to really figure out what might be holding them back.
JJ, it's a real honor and delight to be here with you and our listeners on Together We Seek. Thank you.
Oh, so exciting. So I guess before we get into the book, what is Chiron? How do you see Chiron and how should people think of Chiron in their own lives?
So Chiron in our astrological birth chart is just like you have a sun sign, you have a moon sign, a planet's in Venus. Many of you might know that. Most everyone knows what their sign is. Chiron is just like that. It's different than say I'm a Gemini or you're a Taurus. It's in your birth chart and identifies an area I've learned and discovered related to our vulnerability, our emotional vulnerability, our sometime for some financial vulnerability in our public persona, the 10th house. And so knowing where Chiron is, if it's in Libra or if it's in Aries or if it's in Scorpio, can really help you hone your self-affirmation, your self-encouragement. And for some of you, this could be kind of like an ouch, just like an ouch every now and then. But for others, when you've experienced trauma and loss, especially younger, this could be a real deeper core wounding where you are successful. People tell you, yet there's like a disconnect within you. You don't really feel connected to your value, to your worth, to your joy. And knowing where Chiron is can really help you start to demystify that for yourself.
Mm. Yes, and I love this because a lot of times we don't even know what's buried in the subconscious. So you might think everything's going well, but then you may be holding yourself back, you may be doubting yourself, you may be thinking, can I really do that? Or why am I doing that? And I love your book, The Chiron Effect, because it dives right into where your Chiron sign is in your astrology and gives you really specific advice of how it could be impacting your life.
Thank you, JJ. I like practical wisdom. So for every placement of Chiron, I give you, the reader, 5 or 6 tips that you can begin right now to shift these thought patterns. These are typically thought patterns that inform the decisions that we make and the behaviors that we take. And so I like to start in the realm of helping you think healthier thoughts, think more loving thoughts, more self-forgiving and self-allowing thoughts, so you can show up differently for yourself, and then your life starts to change. And I want to introduce you to Smelly Cat. If y'all are seeing the video, this is my calico Smelly. She loves being in podcasts. So JJ, she wanted to come say hi.
Very soothing energy. I love that. I love that.
Thank
you. I always have known what house my Chiron is in. I always
Where
knew
is your
that.
Chiron?
My Chiron's in the 10th house in Aries.
Okay, so this wounding in your sense of value and worth or vulnerability in the 10th house having to do with your professional persona? Is that
yes, very much so, very
Okay.
much so. And I think the self-worth, I talk to my friends all the time. I have a lot of, I think, Aries Chiron friends, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Where we grew up doing a lot for other people, a lot in our home,
Yes.
a lot to be.
Same here, yes.
You're Aries too, right?
Yes.
Yes, I heard that in your book.
Mhm.
And it just, we do and do and do in exchange for love. And that's how it shows up a lot of times, is like our worth is exchanged through what we do and not who we are. And shifting that perspective and shifting that subconscious thought not only takes a lot of work, but listening into your book, I'm like, I can do this. I
I can do
understand
that. Yes,
this.
we can do it. Absolutely. You can do it. You have been doing it, as have I. And I find for the Chiron and Aries individuals, we're really high performance women, and we hold ourselves to such a high standard. And to learn that we don't have to hold ourselves so rigidly all the time. We might not even be aware because it's kind of like a baseline standard that we have. Or I feel like you're the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And for those of
Yeah.
you listening, that might be like, well, what are you talking about? Where is my Chiron? How do I figure this
Yeah.
out? Lisa, tell them an easy way to get their Chiron placement in their astrology chart.
To make this easy for you, I have a free plugin connected to my website. If you go to nolatherapy.com, it stands for New Orleans, Los Angeles Therapy.com, and scroll, you'll see a round button. It says order my book. Click on that button, and there's a big blue banner. It says find my Chiron. Click on that, and you enter your date of birth, your place of birth, if you have it, and your time of birth, if you have it. The last two pieces are to help you find what house Chiron is in. And that's where your Chiron placement manifests. Like, is it in your romantic relationship? Is it in your public persona? Is it in your finances? But you're going to know that. So don't get hung up. If you just have your date of birth, that's adequate to find the sign that Chiron is in. It'll, when you hit enter, it'll just give you Chiron is in blank. So it's easier than some of the other sites that give you that whole wheel, your whole astrological wheel that you have to decipher. So nolatherapy.com, order my book, find my Chiron.
I love that. And for those of you that have your birth chart, you just look for the K with the circle below it. It usually says it. So you have the circle with all the planets, and usually somewhere on the chart, it'll start to explain Chiron is Chiron. And you can find what the symbol is. The symbol is what you're looking for. So just, very similar to your sun sign, your symbol, your Chiron will be with a symbol. And Lisa's book then breaks it down by chapter based on the astrological sign, otherwise known as symbols I just mentioned. So let's talk a little bit about how a licensed therapist decides to write about Chiron, which is part of like the sky and the astrology.
Yes. Can I share a fun fact about the symbol, the K with the circle?
Yes.
So what's really cool, the reason that's the symbol for Chiron is that the astronomer that discovered Chiron, which orbits in between the planets of Saturn and Uranus, he discovered it in the early 70s because it was the first to have an elliptical orbit in between planets, the first heavenly body discovered. And so his last name was Cowell with a K. So it's the K with the circle below it, which I think is really cool after this astronomer.
I love that. I love that. It's
Thank
such an
you.
easy symbol to find in your
It
astrology
is.
chart.
So how a therapist like myself went the astrological route to help us understand ourselves more deeply is because JJ, I was really frustrated and I asked the universe, God, in meditation, why do I have so many successful clients that still experience anxiety and depression? And why was I still experiencing anxiety and depression? And if you're a meditator like I am, we ask, sit quietly to receive. I started to kind of gently hear in my meditation time, Chiron. And I remembered in graduate school, Chiron being one of the Carl Jung wounded healer archetypes. And I ignored it for about a week because I wasn't very impressed. I think I was expecting a burning bush. I'm not sure what, JJ, but I've learned enough to know when the universe starts whispering something to you, listen to the whisper so it doesn't need to get louder in your life. So I just started to Google Chiron, Chiron. And that's how I learned about the astronomy piece, Greek mythology. He was a healing centaur. And finally, in astrology, it's this placement in our birth chart that really talks about the spectrum, core wounding and vulnerability. And I felt like this is it. I have so many clients that have come in feeling like I don't know what's wrong with me. And I've always said, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You make sense in the context of your life experiences, but let's look at maybe what be causing this undesirable feeling or outcome or pattern. And Chiron identifies the pattern. that we are in, the orbit. We're like little solar systems. I talk about. I'm a planet, you're a planet. We habituate people, places, and things and call that our routine. And we might need to change something in our internal routine, our internal orbit, to start to shift out of patterns that don't serve us.
Oh,
And
I
that's what
couldn't agree
Chiron's
more.
about.
Yes, I could not agree more. A couple years ago, I did Louise Hay's mirror work.
Oh, yeah, I have
And
as well.
yes, and so I think that's really good at just getting used to looking in the mirror and telling yourself you love yourself. And
Yeah.
as simple as that may sound, I would say in the first chapter of the mirror work, I as well as the 13 women I was doing it with were like, oh, this is really hard because
Mm.
we are programmed not to appreciate and love ourselves, whether it's through our cycles of our soul or whether it's through the household we live in or the school system we grow up in. But we are traditionally taught not to love ourselves. And to get to a point where you love yourself, it seems like a very easy concept, but it does take a lot of work.
It takes effort at first if it's not familiar to you. And what you're saying, JJ, reminds me of your episode I heard this week on Together We Seek about having a spiritual awakening. And that episode really fit in with, I think, the Chiron work surrounding it is like an awakening, as is saying to yourself in the mirror, I love you. I really love you. And doing it enough to actually start to feel it. And I think it all really fits together. It is like an awakening within ourselves to these aspects that we might not have given a lot of attention or time to. And it really helps to do that, to really self heal and to allow our lives to begin unfolding in so many more beautiful ways than in the past.
Yes, yes. And I think what your research and work has done is it names it. And I think a lot of times when you can name the struggle that is coming through your life's journey, as it
Right.
is so beautifully displayed in the stars, what I always like to say, and it just allows you to work through it. I'm working through another hurdle right now, and it's perfectly timed to read your book because I know it's going to take a lot of energy to get started, and one of the things I've been doing is just putting my hand on my chest and feeling the energy that comes up through my feet and down through my head. And I think reading your book is saying, this is normal to have this type of challenge with where my Chiron is placed in my birth chart.
Yes. Yes, to that.
Yeah. So this is kind of what brought me to this work, is really doing the inner work and how many practitioners I've worked with to learn more about who I am and what I'm holding on to. Because as you mentioned, we're holding on to all these experiences and conversations and the way we felt about different events in our life and being able to let that go. And I suspect that serves you well in your work as a licensed therapist.
It does. And also to piggyback off that is to the meaning that we've made about the experiences that you just mentioned. We make meaning and think about being younger without having self-awareness, without even having our brain fully formed to we're in our 20s, which is what researchers are finding now. We tend to make meaning, especially being young, if a parent was unavailable, be it because they were working and you were a latchkey kid, or if they had an addiction, or if there was some kind of violence, emotional or physical, in your home. And it's like this sense, children and adolescents feel like it's their fault. It's somehow something about them. I'm not enough, or I'm too much. And I think really going back, my book offers you some self-reflection prompts, and it's meant to be read from the beginning to the end, maybe 20 minutes at a time. It's not a quick read because I ask you to reflect on times in your life where you remember feeling loved and times when you didn't, and what meaning you made about yourself, because that meaning is what we want to untangle and like reframe and redo today. And
Mm.
even as things happen, to be able to suspend judgment about ourselves and others. And again, this happening in real time, it can be a lot at once. So to really be gracious and patient with yourself.
Mm. Yes, I know. It's good for us to remind ourselves that because the world is so focused on action and results, and there's a lot of work that has to happen on the inside to make those actions and results worth something to you.
Yes, absolutely, JJ. Yeah.
So I'm working on the 6 phases of spiritual awakening, and I often talk about, many of the doors of opportunity are through our crossroads. And so
Mm.
when you think about your life and you think about the work you're doing now, did you see glimpses of your work as a younger child, or were things as a younger child sort of circling back to the work you're doing today?
Yes, when I look back, my parents actually saved a note that I scribbled around 6 years old. I want to be a psychiatrist. And at first I thought that was cute. And I'm like, well, that's a little disturbing. Why do you want to be a psychiatrist at 5 and 6? But I grew up in a family. My mom was a psychiatric nurse. And there was definitely some emotional challenges throughout my childhood and adolescence. And I've always been curious. I didn't know I was highly sensitive and an empath. And so I felt things so deeply, and there wasn't anyone to help me through that. So I just felt like I was too much. I was too sensitive. I was told that, as probably many of you were. And now, as an adult, reflecting back, I was just a highly sensitive child who really cared and was always curious about why people do the things they do. So I feel like being a therapist and a healer has always been a part of me since I was the youngest of ages. So that's been a blessing and a gift to really, I think, be living my purpose.
That
How
is
about for you?
beautiful. That
Thank
is
you.
beautiful. Yeah, I often saw glimpses too. I had an imaginary friend, also highly sensitive,
Mhm.
but I didn't know. And, my mom started bringing me to Lilydale when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. Little did I
What is
know,
that?
Lilydale is a spiritual community just south of Buffalo in New York State.
That's so cool.
Yes, and so I didn't really know my connection and how this was all gonna come to be, with all these beautiful trusted practitioners around me. I have like a network of practitioners now that are all over the world, and, they're people that have been on this podcast and people I've worked with individually, and I feel like I didn't know that I would bring this to the forefront, but it was shown to me very early in age, which I think you get glimpses of your life's work early on.
Mhm. I love that. And I'm excited to have you on my podcast, All Things Therapy, to talk about your new book, because I really I love that episode about spiritual awakening. So I want to bring you on to discuss your work.
I love that. All things therapy. We all need it. We all love it. And I feel like for you, this is just a door opener to the work that you're going to do now and in the future. Have you already seen glimpses of what's coming down the pipeline for you?
I do, JJ. I reached out to a company to plan my first retreat in March of 2027 in Costa Rica. I want to do a 4-day retreat that includes meditation, yoga, staying on the beach, surfing, snorkeling. So a mix of just coming together and talking about, real life issues, and how we can use this Chiron template and perspective of self-forgiveness and empathy, and share. So that's, I'm really excited and nervous to do that. Yet I
That is
know it's what
beautiful.
I want.
That is beautiful. We'll have to connect you to our
Yes.
friend and practitioner, Donna Bonds. She is also an author and lives in Costa Rica and
Oh,
has
yeah.
a retreat facility and probably knows a lot about the area. So we'll be sure we connect
Thank
you.
you.
And for those listening, I hope you take a minute and figure out where your Chiron is at nolatherapy.com. And then I hope you come into the Together We Seek community and share it, because I think it'd be really fun to start grouping out what our Chirons are, because I suspect
Mm,
a lot of the practitioners have similar astrological signs where Chiron sits.
yes. Yes.
Hmm, that's so great. So tell us where everybody can find you, Lisa.
You just shared it. JJ, nolatherapy.com is my website. It's also my Instagram, and it stands for New Orleans, Los Angeles Therapy. Those are the two places that I live and love. And I would love to connect with you. And please reach out if your audience has questions and anything. I'm Lisa at nolatherapy.com. I'd be happy to connect.
I love this. And for everybody listening, we are so happy you've joined us again this week. We hope that we've given you another nugget or two that you can follow up on to learn more about yourself and your life's journey. Be sure to check out Lisa's new book, The Chiron Effect, which is really awesome. I listened to it both on audio and have a hard copy, and I'm going to use both. I'm actually going to look up my children and my
Yeah.
husband to
Oh,
see
yeah.
where their Chiron is so that I can better engage with those souls I love.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. So, with everybody, we hope you join us again here next time. Be sure to rate the podcast, rate the books. It's a great gift you can give to us creators, and we really appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, JJ.